What does it say about the role of the traditional foreign correspondent? Maybe we can all report on local events and save the travel budget of the foreign newspapers. Or not. New York Times ran a piece on Monday about Britain, austerity Britain, filed from the town of Prescott in Knowsley in Merseyside. I think you can see a picture of it. The long piece described the pains of government cuts in Prescott and made a number of specific claims about the closing of a library, museum, police station and leisure centre. Those claims were quickly challenged online. Yes, the closures had occurred, but it would have been helpful for the New York Times writer to have mentioned the new facilities which opened to replace the old ones. Well, the debate about Prescott raged this week, and we're not going to get into it here, but it did make us wonder about the role of foreign correspondents. Do we even need them? Would a report from someone local provide a more intimate account? Or, on the other hand, is it important for, say, the Brits to have a Brit reporting on Saudi Arabia or Africa, just as maybe New Yorkers want an American perspective on Britain? Well, I'm joined from Paris by Janine Giovanni. She's been a foreign correspondent for more than 25 years in the Middle East and Africa. And with me here is the Saudi Arabian journalist, Safa Al-Ahmad. Very good evening to you both. I wonder first, Safa, do you think the model of the foreign correspondent from the home country coming to a foreign place to report it, do you think that model works?
I think there's added value to having both perspectives. So it's not an either-or thing. It's not just the foreigner coming in reporting on a country, and it's not just the local reporting on local stories. I think both perspectives are really, really important, and making us choose between the two, I think.
Why doesn't the foreign correspondent? Because that's how it always was the foreign correspondent came. You never had the local citizen journalist reporting. What was limited about that old model, do you think?
I think it's diversity of perspective, and there has always been local journalism, so that's not true. Yeah, okay. And there has always been local journalists. It's just a matter of the Western perspective of like, oh, we never knew about this place, so it didn't exist until we went there. And so that is a problematic perspective. But I think what is really good about what's going on now is the diversification of those opinions. And so somebody from the New York Times coming to the Middle East, and this is why I thought this article was really amusing, and actually the reaction to it, because I've read way worse on the Middle East. And so I'm quite amused by this, because, I mean, journalists get to talk about oppressive regimes as revolutionary and breaking the mold of the old Middle East, and saying so many cliches about countries that they should know better. And so to me, it's more questioning the narrative of the foreign correspondent when they come in is important.
So they're challenged on that. Yeah, well,
exactly.
Let's go to Janine, because Janine, you've been something of a foreign correspondent, more academic role now, but do you think that model worked and needed fixing?
Well, look, let's clarify something. First of all, I agree with you, Safa. I think you're right. I think you need both perspectives, absolutely. You do need to have local people, but you very much do need experts. So I'd like to clarify the difference between a foreign correspondent that basically gets parachuted in and knows nothing about the region, nothing about the story, as opposed to the experts and the people that have been working there for years and years. Example, those of us that covered the Bosnian War. We lived in Sarajevo for nearly 3 years, so we were genuine experts. We knew what we were talking about. We were not Bosnian, but we did know the story inside and out. My big fear with this so-called new journalism, using social media as a form of reporting, is very worrying, because I feel that there's no way to check it. Anyone can suddenly become an expert. You also have a lack of objectivity. Now, I'm not going to defend Mr. Goodman, who wrote this article, because I'm not an expert on Prescott. But I have worked for the New York Times. I have worked for American news agencies as well as the British press for many, many years. They usually have extremely stringent and thorough fact-checking.
They have a reputation. They have a reputation they want to maintain, whereas some bod who's just stood up may not.
But this is perception. But the criticism against him is purely perception. It's people from Prescott who quite rightly feel offended by his piece, and I do get that. But you need to have someone like him. I don't know even if he lives in Britain. I know nothing about him. He might be someone that has spent a great deal of time in Britain. But I think that you can't have local reporters working solely covering a story. You must have experts from the outside, and
expertise.
you must balance it.
You see, Safa, that's the difficulty of the anti-foreign correspondent perspective is, do you really want to trust those citizen journalists who are
Well, I don't think the
online?
conversation is citizen journalism. We're talking about a foreign correspondent or somebody that knows the region.
Okay.
I mean, because even the people who call themselves expert, and I go back to the example of the Middle East, who've been covering the Middle East for like decades and don't speak a word of Arabic. To me, you don't get to say that.
But they might know their audience better. They might connect better with the people for whom they're...
But that's not the point. The point is, how do you
matters.
really understand a place?
No, but it really matters
if you
that
don't
you-
actually speak it.
It's
Like,
really
to me, that
understand-
is astounding.
It's very important that you understand the reader, isn't it? The audience for your...
But the importance
I
to me
say
is the
something about the
accuracy of the
danger-
information that you're getting and how you're processing that. And it's not about understanding the readership alone, because you have editors for that as well.
Janine.
Could I just make a case in point about the danger of bloggers and I'm not in any way criticizing freelancers. I was a freelancer for many, many years. What I am saying is that bloggers go completely unchecked. So what happens is you will get people who are essentially online trolls who then decide that there is something they want to go after. For instance, I'll use the example of Vanessa Beeley, who is a British
she's not here to
online
defend herself,
activist.
Janine, so I don't want to get too personal.
But
because
are we confusing the concept of local journalist
it
versus
is an
blogger?
example,
That's not the same.
but you're making a general point.
I'm sorry, Safa.
Yeah.
I've worked with local journalists my entire career. I've trained many of them. They're invaluable.
Yeah.
But you also need to have experience of people that can put something into context.
But
and in order
that's not
to
a
do
contradiction.
This, you need to have.
That's not a contradiction,
Right,
having
well,
the two. No.
Then I'm not. Then we're not.
Then we're
I'm
not
not arguing
disagreeing.
with you. However, I think if you're going to say.
I'm so sorry, Janine. We do need to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank